Sustainable Urban Network.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sustainable Urban Network. We are so glad that you're joining us today. Happy Sun Saturday. Sustainable Urban Network Sun wants to bring some sun rays your way. And today we have a very special guest in the building, Terry Robinson. We play that we family. So, Terry is going to be talking about community synergy, community collaboration, and opportunities. He has developed a program called YAWW, and that stands for Youth and Adult Wellness Workshops. And I'm going to ask him if he can give us a quick snippet of what we can expect on today's topic.
Well, first of all, thank you for asking me to join you today on the topic of the YAWW program. And it's short for YAWW is short for the Youth and Adult Wellness Workshops. We're going to talk about how we combine all of our resources to create wraparound services, but also be on the same page, have the same, make sure our liabilities and other things are covered so that we eliminate points of failure. That's one of my number one goals whenever I do anything is eliminate points of failure. And it takes a team to do that. Everybody involved has to be. It's kind of like I like to use the term collective, like the Borg. If I remember the Borg from Star Trek, there was a collective. Everybody was thinking the same thing. So we're all connected. So that's my goal. And that's what we'll talk about today.
Awesome. That is fantastic. So I'm looking forward to hearing how we can come together to close those gaps, as you mentioned, and like you said, avoiding the point of failures. I think that is something that our communities can benefit from. So before we jump into that topic, we're going to level set this content like we always do. And we're going to start with our sun enlightenments. And I always want to give credit that our sun enlightenments were inspired by an author, Miguel Ruiz, 4 agreements. And our sun enlightenments are: 1, be responsible with your resources. And we're going to be talking about resources today. 2, take the state of our social and climate justice seriously. 3, don't wait for others, do your part. And 4, when you do, give your best effort and from a loving place.
Amen.
Right. So now, before I officially introduce you, Terry, I'm going to share a quote from today's content to level set everything. And then after our quote, we will definitely hear your theme song and move on to our discussion. So for today's quote, it is coming from it's coming from a person that I'm recently learning about. His name is David Walker, and the quote states as such: leadership is building a bridge that connects the vision with the purpose in order to empower those around us. And that's from David Walker. He was born in 1796 as a free man because his mom was free. He's an American abolitionist, an anti-slavery activist, and writer. He called for Black unity and a fight against slavery. Again, I'm just learning about David Walker, and I love the quote for today's topic. And so before I officially introduce you, we're going to hear your topic theme song and then move on to our conversation. Okay, so I apologize that we didn't get your theme song today, but it was Common and Will I Am about we're going to work things out. So who do we have as our guest today? Terry is the founder and president of the We Need to Talk Men's Health Forum. He's the board president for the Lincoln Hornets High School Alumni Association. He began the health forum as We Need to Talk from a conversation he had with a close friend, Harold Allen, who is the older brother of the NFL Hall of Fame, Marcus Allen, which is the reason why I love football in the first place. And I'm still a Raider fan, okay? Number 32.
We'll forgive you for that part. Go ahead, girl.
What'd you say?
We'll forgive you for that part, but go ahead. Though.
Right. Now, I'm always going to be a
We're
Raider.
going to pray for you if you're a Raider fan.
So Terry is also at the Lincoln Hornet Alumni Association. They provide services for not only students, but for students' families. as he mentioned, wraparound services that includes food, clothing, and community resources. His approach to wellness and fitness is through education, advocacy, and building community. He works with community organizations and local government agencies. He strives to build synergy and connect others with resources and build a network. One of his frequent quotes, and I remember him all the time with this, is that your network is your net worth. Welcome, Terry. How are you doing
Thank
today?
you. Fantastic. You saying that remind me that I haven't used that term in a while, but I've been practicing it. It's like there's a lot of, iron sharpens iron and all these different phrases we love to use, but we have to apply those. We have to apply those phrases. So what I've been doing is just working on putting that network together that allows us all to benefit from everyone's knowledge. We do a lot of siloing, and we want to bring all that, we want to break those walls down so everything collapses and it all works as one. So, you don't need, 20 different corn silos when you can just have one, right? So that everybody just kind of mixes in and we all work well together.
Yeah, no, I love that. So, based on what you're sharing right now, I'm just kind of curious, what inspired you to start engaging in our communities in the first place, and even with addressing the men's health? I know that conversation, but why, what gave you that burning desire to want to engage with community?
This goes back to the Allen family, which is kind of crazy. In 2015, Michael and Michelle Allen, Marcus's and Harold's younger brother and sister, they had a birthday party up in San Juan Capistrano. And the next day at the hotel, some of us came up and stayed at the hotel. The next day at the hotel, we were talking about our alumni brothers and sisters. We were all like 50, 51 years old at that time. So brothers and sisters were dying. And I'm getting calls, hey, can you come to town? So-and-so's on, hospice. And I'm just like, why are we not talking about this out loud? We can't pray for you, if we don't know what's going on, right? And so I wanted to open up the lines of communication. But then as I talked about it more, I realized that we needed to do more than that. So our very first event was August 15th, 2015 at Roar Park, was a cancer and diabetes event. And we brought in doctors, we brought in folks that are doing everything that like Dr. Follow and all those guys are doing every Wednesday, once a month, first Wednesdays, I believe it is.
Yes.
And so testing, we brought in some fitness folks. We had games for the kids because it starts at that level to keep the kids active. And we had trophies, we had medals, it was bananas. We had food, healthy food, like taking some of our food like red beans and rice, greens, things of that nature, and showing folks that they can be cooked in a more healthy fashion than we're used to. And so that just kind of grew exponentially. And then when Harold called me in 2022, it took it to the next level, because God, the first thing he said, and this is the backstory behind We Need to Talk, the first thing he said to me was, T, we need to talk. And the rest of that sentence was, we need to talk to the brothers in the community. I was already working on these things, but when he said the we need to talk part, I got to chill just now thinking about it. It would not go out of my head. I know normally when you hear we need to talk, it ain't good, right? Somebody's about to get into you about something, right?
Especially for you men, y'all don't want to hear no woman say.
We don't want to hear we need to talk, right? This is gonna be all bad, right? So from there, I couldn't get it out. I'm sleeping. I'm waking up thinking about we need to talk, and I started talking. You know what? Interesting part, Sonia, sister. I actually started talking to the ladies before I started talking to the men. And I started getting some background because as long as I've been doing health events, it's an 80-20 split. 80% men, 20% women. Excuse me, backwards. I got that completely backwards. I can't believe this. 80% women and 20% men. And that's because guys don't talk about their health and they don't have any interest of going somewhere and talking about it either, right? So I was getting stories from everyone about all these different things that have been happening in their husbands and significant others' lives. I'm like, oh yeah, we got to do this right now. So, we developed the brand, and, we've since it depends right now on where we're at. What's interesting, sister, is the ladies kind of had an issue with the We Need to Talk men's health forum brand. I would get grief, like, well, what about us? I'm like, y'all talk about everything. You'll be fine. You don't need an audience. The guys, we're not talking about anything. We are waiting until something bad happens.
And then even then, you may not say nothing.
We may not. Let me tell you something. Some of the stories I heard were really heartbreaking because our pride, if you take my age group, we came from a bunch of really prideful men. I'm 61, about to turn 62 this month. And my dad worked at National Steel and Shipbuilding for NASCO for 40 years. He burned himself with a torch by accident one day. He didn't have his long glove on. He wrapped that joint up and went back to work the next day. Now, most of us would have been on workers' comp for a while. But you know what he understood? He understood that he was only getting 60% staying at home. He wasn't getting his full paycheck. So he was like, I got to go back to work. But when you watch that behavior, anything short of that is not acceptable to us, because that's, you know, my dad didn't intentionally teach me to be a tough guy and not speak out. He just showed me, hey, brother, you got responsibilities. Suck it up, Chuck, was kind of his motto. He was kind of, so this created a lot of conversation, and the best conversations are when I get men in one room with no one else but us. It's amazing.
Okay.
Shocking what comes out.
Right. And it's so neat. And I applaud you and thank you for, bringing our community together. And as you mentioned, like one of my personal mentors, Dr. Follow. And like you said, she's like a mentor almost everybody in the community, right? We love
exactly. You want to get in the medical space. So out of this, develop some other opportunities that we can get into, in particular the YAWW program. Because
that's what I was curious. Now that you kind of like broaden the scope of building like this synergy within our community, because even as the president of the alumni, from Lincoln, right? As we need to talk, and now you're broadening this youth and wellness workshop. Can you share with us what that program is all about?
Well, based on what I do, I work in like every space. I work in the, I work with the high schoolers, and sometimes I work with the lower grades. So everything we're doing is all connected. All these different aspects of working with adults, working with children. So, in the course of my work the last few years, when you work with other agencies, you can see the deficiencies. You can see whether or not they actually have a team of leadership, a leadership team that actually is involved. You can see if they have volunteers. You can see if they have a business plan. And one of the other things you may not know about me is I am an insurance broker.
Yes.
And the main focus is insuring nonprofits, right? Mm-hmm. So as I started to become it turns you in, you become a nonprofit consultant, okay? Because in order to insure someone, you have to go through their business and say, what do you actually do? Are you working with kids? Do you have an abuse policy? Are you doing athletics? Do you have a policy that covers if you've got a gym in your building? I have to go through all those aspects. So I naturally rotate over into a consultant role. And as I go through here, I see all these people working in silos. I see mental health over here. I see social justice over here. I see fitness over here. I see professional development over here. And I'm thinking, okay, what if we were able to connect all those programs, almost like a college education or high school when you get to pick your classes, right? And what is important to you in your life? Where are you at in your life? Are you still in high school? Okay, cool. What are you going to do? We have what's called the juniors to seniors program with the high schoolers. We bring them in and we talk to them about, do you want to be an entrepreneur? Would you like to go in the military? Do you want to raise a family? That's my favorite subject right there. We go into college. Do you want to go to do trades? So we go through that program. So now we're getting the kids prepared for life after high school, to be an adult, basically. What's adulthood look like? Don't be in a hurry. But they always are. We were, right?
I'm surprised you brought in, do you want a family? Like that wasn't even discussed in my household. You know what I'm saying? From that point on, it was almost like do everything else but start a family, at least right away, right? So
we're trying to teach them to be more responsible.
Right.
Once we start throwing numbers at them, hey, you know what it costs to live in San Diego County? Let's talk about that for a minute. You want to live with 6 people or you want to live with 2? And therein lies the beginning. The beginning of every conversation is a mental health conversation. Mm-hmm. So I've got my graph up here I'm looking at. It's all aligned in a way that you grow. There's a growth pattern here. So we have to start with the mindset, because you never know where either the children or their families have come from. Are they coming from poverty? What is their example of relationships? Like my parents knew each other from the time they were 9 to 12 years old. So even when they divorced, they were like brother and sisters, right? My dad used to babysit my mom. Crazy story. We'll have time for it today. But you have to start with the mental health aspect of where are you? We have a program called A Family Legacy. And I wish we could do it together, sister, because It goes chronologically through your life from 2 to 12, trauma or lesson. Because there's a lot of trauma when you're between 2 and 12. But when you get older, you see the lesson. But when you're going through it, you're like, my grandma mean to me.
Well, I mean, honestly, I would have to push back just a little bit. I think sometimes from 2 to 12, you have no idea of the concept of trauma. You might be a canister for it, right? You might have been a reciprocal of it, but you have no idea of even that language, the
What does
vernacular.
that mean?
The definite, exactly, exactly. But I mean, we can keep going that way, but I really want to kind of peel back this workshop. Do
Okay.
you have any events related to this workshop that is coming up in the San Diego area or even in the Northwest where you're at?
Yeah, I have it here. We've the YAWW program has already started here. On March the 20, my bad, April 5th, we're put together a workshop, and this is to bring all the partners into the room. My dad was fabulous at bringing. He liked to sit everybody on the couch. He wants you to hear the same message at the same time. Don't go back in the room and be trying to tell your brother and sister something different than what I just said. You all get to hear it at the same time. So I'm taking that same approach because in order for us to be successful, and especially financially, the biggest, I hear about all these programs that were fantastic at one time. What happened to the program? They ran out of money. Why? So we have to look at money is the last part of the conversation because you've got to build the right mentality to get to the money aspect of it. So we're going to talk about everything from your board on April 5th. What's your board consist of? What roles and responsibilities do you have? What is your risk management level? What kind of events are you holding? And what are you giving advice to folks? Because that requires a professional liability policy. That's the benefit of me working in both sides is I look at these things from a risk management perspective. We're going to talk about branding. Do you have a logo? Do you have a website? Do you even have a landing page? Just a landing page to say, hey, here I am. These are the things we do. And then you can grow that landing page. Everyone thinks that they have to have everything now. You don't. There are a lot of people with lightning in a bottle ideas, but they may not have the professional background and to pull these things off and be consistent and actually have the programs have longevity. So we're going to discuss about 3.5 hours of topics. I'm gonna feed you because I always feed folks. Never leave. If you leave a Terry Robinson event hungry, then you just didn't eat. Because we always, it's always breaking bread is one of my number one rules when I get together with a group of people. So we want to talk to all the different agencies, whether you're in mental health, whether you're in education, whether you're in social justice, whether you're in social justice. It's nutrition and fitness. A lot of that is part of our culture in particular that has to be addressed. One of the things I talk a lot about to the groups who are giving out food. My mother lived across the street from St. Stephen's, and this is no offense to St. Stephen's, but they're getting food boxes. There's a lot of canned food in there that has very high in fructose, syrup, and of course salt because they're canned and preservatives. So in our effort to help the seniors, we're also creating a problem. We're giving them the opposite of what they really need. It's not nutrition if it's going to kill you, right? So we want to address each one of those situations. Financial literacy groups will come in. Professional development, i.e. Workforce. I work with 2 groups that are one here in Portland called Leaders Become Legends. They're opening up a 5,000-foot facility to train on solar, EV station repair and installation, HVAC, and there's a class going on right now with 15 students from Lincoln, seniors at Lincoln, with a group called I Am Green that is doing somewhat it's a national program, and the kids get a $1,200 stipend for 12 weeks of class. So we're going to talk about how do you develop those programs so that if I have a child that needs additional education in order to get into the green space, if they take an aptitude test and they're below the standard that's required to take that, what do we do for that kid? I hate the term no child left behind, but it's fairly accurate in this situation. So we're going to teach the group how to create services and partnerships so that we always have wraparound. I can always refer you to XYZ based on your need. And that's really, but we have to be in alignment on how we get there. There has to be a program, there has to be accountability on how the program is actually where I'm looking for. How we transition people in and out, and how we follow. My biggest issue with what we do right now is we don't collect enough data. Teaching people about the power of data.
So you mentioned April 5th, and so I'm thinking you're talking about April 5th of this year, 2025, but you haven't stated where. I think I have an idea where the location is because we talked, but can you share like the time, the location, because you brought up Portland and San Diego. Can you give us some information on the date of April 5th and as well as who would you like to see there as participants at this workshop?
Okay, so the date, April 5th, the workshop is from 12:30 to 4, and it will be at St. Stephen's Church in the Real Teens Clubhouse. So the Real Teens Clubhouse actually faces Imperial. It's out on the front side and it faces Imperial. And I'd like to see folks that are within the nonprofit space, the service community, which is basically what we all do, right? But whether you're a mental health professional, whether you're an educator, whether you are, educator and can be an educator in financial literacy, professional development. Are you trying to help someone get into a job? There are folks out there, for instance, that will help you get the clothing for the interview, provide the resume and the practice for interviews. So we want all those folks to provide these services today. To come be part of the program. Because what I did with the YAWW program, my number one issue was to make it agnostic. Okay. Anybody, your social justice can be part of the program. Now you're not by yourself anymore. So when we're going out for these grants, you are part of the YAWW program and you can say, here you are, and here are all the other services that your clients have access to. So everyone that can contribute to the greater good to create better human beings, that's who we want there. There's no one that we say, I could say, yeah, you wouldn't fit into this program. I can't see that.
Because you're looking at it from a holistic view, as you
Very
mentioned, the wraparound services. So now, for someone who wants to attend, are there any outcomes that you think that they would be able to obtain by participating, or can you share some examples that you want to see that comes out of this participation? And April 5th, that's going to be here in San Diego. So
we'll be in San Diego. Yeah. Number one is you got to be organized first. We're going to start with your organizational structure. That's going to be the first topic, because the rest of it doesn't matter. If you don't have board members and volunteers, and I have a lot of people that want the nonprofit to be free when they come to an event. I'm not a big proponent of free, and that's a whole other conversation. There's a cost to everything, whether it just be information or whether it be physically you have to pay for something. And I believe that we all need to come and figure out what that looks like, so we actually stop underfunding what we do. We're trying to be, good stewards of the community, but we have to do it correctly. So you come in and you learn how to organize yourself, number one, because the money doesn't matter. You know this, sister. You get the money, it doesn't matter. And if you're not organized, I'm not giving you the money. Not everybody qualifies for the $50,000 grant. Not everybody qualifies. So the idea here is to build a pyramid where if different agencies are more qualified to get $100,000, we create a program where everybody wins. You get a piece of that action, which is what I did with Dr. Afalo and Gyro Providers. Everybody gets a piece based on their role, because you don't qualify for that $100,000. So last time I checked, 0 from 0 is 0. If you don't qualify, you're just there, not doing what God intended for you to do. So I'm trying to align this so everybody understands their role and what's required. What level do you want to be at? You're going to be at the level 5? You want to be at level 3, 4? There's all kind of different levels of nonprofits. So you understand that part. And where you want to be, where are you trying to grow to? So this is the beginning for some folks, and this is just a readjustment for others.
And it could be like we talked before, it could be groups. Doesn't all have to be nonprofits, because some other nonprofits could actually be the fiscal sponsor for the group that's actually providing the services, right?
That's correct. I'm the physical sponsor for a number of programs at Lincoln High School. We have a national championship robotics team. Lincoln, let me say this again.
Oh, that's what's up.
Lincoln High School is the national championship in high school robotics.
That's
The
what's up.
reigning national champion. Okay,
National across the country.
that we own the country. We might own California football, but in robotics, we own the country right now. And
Mm.
they've got some tournaments. Actually, they've got one at San Diego State, a robotics tournament, March 22nd, which happens to be my birthday. They asked me to come back for it, so I'm going to see what I can do about that. But we these the folks who do need sponsors, because there's a lot of folks doing good work that they're not a 501c. We want to teach you about how, I hate to say how easy it is, but when you're out there spending money and collecting money, you got to pay taxes on that stuff if you're not a nonprofit. And a lot of people aren't doing that. So we're kind of in the let's get it right to qualify for more, so we can do better. That's my whole goal. Let's eliminate points of failure, have a backup plan to your backup plan, and keep it pushing so that you're doing the work that God intended you to do.
Okay, so you wear plenty hats. You got the We Need to Talk. We got the president of the Lincoln Alumni Association. Since you are pumping up Lincoln High School, go on to give them some more props. Give us some more historical, you know.
Listen, you know what? In 2023, 22-23 school year, Lincoln won 5 CIF championships.
Wow.
Soccer, they won it in soccer, football. It was 5. I can't remember what all of them were. The girls' team just won CIF soccer a week ago. The football team won California State. So Lincoln, although is considered a football school or athletic school.
So why is it considered, for some people who may be watching this is not from the direct area, why would you say Lincoln? Give us some of that history.
Because we do so historically, we do so well in athletics. From a educational perspective, we have a lot of folks at Lincoln with English as a second language. So our scores aren't as high. A lot of people don't look at that fact. Lincoln used to be about 90% African American. Now it's 72% Hispanic. And you have kids that come from Mexico to come to Lincoln. We've created some resources at Lincoln. The Hornet Closet is a perfect example for kids. Hey, if the kid is, if the teacher or someone or counselor recognizes the kid's in need, we have a full boutique up there. Now, when I say full, you can get everything down to undergarments, which we only take in if they're brand new and in the package. So don't be cool about that part. But you'd be surprised what people will drop off. But we're trying to service the kids. And once again, even with our food drive-through, a couple of years ago, we started the food drive-through every other Friday at the library. And I'm out there in the corner. I got avocados and I got oranges, and we want to service the community, and we want the community to understand more about Lincoln and not look at it from what you hear when something goes wrong. And Lincoln is doing a lot of good things. We're even starting another program so that the kids can attend ACC for different like HVAC and a bunch of different classes. First classes in the morning, they would attend trade school type classes. And then they would then transition to Lincoln after that. So we're bringing back the old stuff like automotive and all these things that we
is
used to have.
amazing, right?
Yeah.
For them to build a trade and actually be able to convert that trade for their living life, their source of living, right? Like, what do you do for a living? How are you actually,
surviving?
Real talk, right? We need to talk real talk.
That's when we talk to the kids, we say, okay, let's look at this from this perspective. And I said this earlier. You want to live with 2 or 3 people, you want to live with 6. You want to live in your mom's basement, or you want your own apartment? Because these jobs at McDonald's aren't getting you there. They might be $20 an hour, the cost of living is so high. So we can bring you in out of high school at $20 to $40 an hour. You cool with that? So these trades are so important. Back in the day it was computer programming. There's always what's hot in that period. Right now it's green. Some of these green jobs pay really well.
Well, just in general, like I'm definitely an advocate for, climate, environmental and climate justice and as well as energy justice and understanding the difference. And I'm not trying to get into a wonky conversation about it right now, but it's becoming real life, right? So unfortunately, they just generally stating that those that are closest to the problem need to be part of the solution, right? And even
Man,
leading the conversations for the solution. And so, unfortunately, it is already very well documented that our Black and Brown communities have contributed the least to this climate change and this catastrophe that happens, but yet the burden is on our shoulders. And we unfortunately saw that in the floods in January, right? The January 22nd floods was just just horrendous. So I appreciate that you bring up the green source positions and jobs and careers. So a lot of our younger generations are interested in from a social perspective and knowing that that can also be a career. So that is amazing. So I want to ask you about you seem to have a really good handle on accountability, right? And so can you share with us why you think it's so important for us to have accountability as far as the services we're providing and how we are engaging with our community?
I think, I had a great example. I was working with a group and they had a grant that would pay for 8 different um, therapy sessions, okay, with a therapist, right? At the end of the program, they went to the regular rate. And so I said, okay, if they couldn't pay the full amount when they started, what's the expectation they can when their 8 classes are up? I said, so what are you guys doing after the first 8? They said, well, they just have to pay. And I said, no, that's not a good program. That's accountability issue there because now you've got that. Now, that's the part. Now that person's been through 8 sessions. And if you've been to therapy before 8 sessions, you're rolling in 8 sessions. You got a lot of stuff.
A lot of times you should be able to take care of them, right? You should be
Yeah,
able
you got some stuff off your chest. You're finding resolution. You want to come back and talk to somebody about it. Maybe you ran into. So that's not the time to cut somebody off. And so that's the accountability you have to have is making sure that your program is holistic in nature, is that that person can continue, even if you have to refer them to a partner. And that's part of putting these partners together. Like knowing what each person has. Maybe I've exhausted my resources for that program. I can step into the next program. So we need to make sure that these people we're pulling into our services don't one day just not have them. Just kill them like they're doing with some certain programs with certain people in this country right now, where they're just like killing programs. Like, what happens to the people that they were meant to serve?
I don't think some of them really care about the people though. And
Because remember, rich folks don't go when you want to fire all the people that work in the forestry. Guess what? Rich people don't do. They don't go camp.
I honestly,
Unless they drive in an RV. No, but seriously, there you have to be able to sustain your programs because you did this to serve someone. So you have a responsibility to continue to serve those people that are in need and not leave them just in the lurch. And the programs have to be, I think the more we work together, the more you don't leave one program and just be lost and start a new one. You're actually, each program, it's a step program, and they're actually, I hate to use the word step, but they're actually preparing you for the next phase. If I got you in mental health, now that I got your mind, your focus, let me talk to you about your nutrition and your fitness. The better you feel about yourself, the easier it is to take a test. So all these things connect, but you have to be responsible enough to make sure that they're in alignment with each other so that people are growing out of what you're trying to accomplish for them, trying to help them with them. Say that.
well, I was just sitting here thinking of all kind of groups and organizations I hope participate in this event on April 5th. And we said St. Stephen's, right? And
St. Stephen's Church. There is a $15 registration fee.
Mhm.
And one second, if you like, I can put the link to the website in the chat, and they can actually just go and see our events page, and they can just sign up. We're limited to 20. We're limited to 20 in that space. So this is a get up and get it in right now. And it doesn't mean we won't do it again, but we need to take and start moving this. We talk about it a lot. We're in funding season right now it's funding season because if you know anything about grant funding, come about October, they all shut down. Most of them shut down and they take grants in and you're not seeing. So this conversation needs to happen now.
Yeah. So I'm curious about your shared community vision and how you see the partnerships with others to achieve that community vision. Can you share with us,
Well,
like,
here's the goal. One of the goals is collecting data. If you're in the nonprofit space, data equals money. Okay. So I'm gonna give you a perfect example. Let's take a backpack giveaway. Okay. Every single person should be registered for that backpack giveaway. Okay. You don't get a backpack unless I have your name, address, not your address, name, email, and phone number. You know why? Because now, and I might ask you a couple of questions when you qualify. How many kids do you have? What grade levels are they at? Now, once I have your contact information, I can send you a survey monkey and say, let's talk about your financial situation, your income, your household. Now I'm collecting additional data in order to provide additional services. This year, I'm giving out backpacks and pens and pieces of paper. Next year, I might be giving out laptops. But I can't get a funder to give me that money unless I can identify those hot points. Can I say, okay, I served 500 people, and how many of those children in the middle school have a laptop out of 500? 3?
but you as the president of the alumni can probably get access definitely from the academia space. I heard what you said, but you realize a lot of our legislators, social civil rights organizations, and I participate and volunteer and help with those backpack giveaways, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're just literally serving the community where there's not that data collection to receive school supplies.
And the problem is that you're limiting when you just give it away without collecting any data. Why am I serving the community? There's an assumption, because let's keep it real. There's about, on any given Saturday right before school, there's about 5 backpack giveaways, and I'm telling you, you can see the same parents at about 3 of them, right? But what it does for us, it increases our funding in order to give out more resources that are necessary. I might be able to look at that. That family might answer that survey monkey and say, okay, I'm making $20 an hour. Now I can take the adult, we improve the adult situation, we improve the child situation. So it's just a matter of what data you're looking for and what your goal is to take that data and then turning it into more resources. So like I said, this year we're giving away backpacks. Maybe we're putting laptops in next year's backpacks because we have data to prove that there is a need. That's generally the goal. And then we can provide more services also.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can point people. So now we're really getting at people, not just in that moment of, and then also, why are we doing all the backpacks before school? Why aren't we coordinating so that we do them twice a year? Guess how many, guess the chances of your child needing a second backpack by January, by the time school starts? Pretty high. So why don't we coordinate so that there's some of the folks that are doing this, you guys are the second level. So just having a coordinated effort and just doing things less in a silo and more with a plan. Not in the moment, heartfelt plan is great, but the need is year round.
The need is year round, and even after, the school year ends, right? So, I mean, since we were talking about that and academia space, and since you are the president of the Lincoln Hornets Alumni Association, how can people help the Hornets Alumni Association?
Actually, the number one thing, and I've been having this conversation a lot, thank you for asking, is they need to show up at some of the meetings that are, the budget meetings, things of that nature, that are associated with District 4, for instance. District 4 is where Lincoln falls in with. Sharon Whitehurst Payne is the trustee. And there's a number of different meetings around that are associated with budgeting, Title I funds, et cetera. And the biggest complaint I get is that the community's not showing up. But there's one pushback I have, and I've been very vocal about this. You guys, they have to do a better creating a pathway for people to join. So like for me, for instance, I'm in Portland, Oregon. How can I attend the SGT meeting? It's the same way on Zoom. But they actually voted that idea down. But at the same time, they're complaining that people aren't showing up. So we need folks to say they will. Write a letter, say they will. We can have a campaign. We have to hit those boards with, hey, we want to participate, but I don't get off work till 5. Your meeting's at 6. I still got to cook dinner or whatever it is. Whatever if there is a roadblock, but you want to participate, and then have the community disseminate the information. Like, we can be better stewards of what's going on in Lincoln if we're participating. So everybody has to play a role. We have to get more cooperation at the district level, but we also have to have the community want to know what's going on. Because let's be real, a lot of folks don't really want to know, and they don't understand, and they have an opinion, but it comes from a place of a lack of knowledge.
We talked about having surveys provided when parents and families and students are accessing the Hornets Closet or any other resources there at Lincoln's Alumni Association. Maybe just providing some form for them to respond back, QR code or what have you, so they can say, these are the times I'm most available, so they can engage and provide that information, like you said, to the San Diego school board, as well as to, I'm going to say Henry, to council member, the Honorable Council Member Henry Foster.
Henry Foster, yeah. Henry's a Hornet, by the way. And we just worked together. I was the communications and finance chair for the Martin Luther King parade. Well, the alumni was. Okay, I did all the work. I ain't gonna lie to King, but we were the part of it. And you just that's a fantastic point. I think putting together what would you like to know? Because a lot of people still live in the 1970s. They think the things that happened at Lincoln in 1970 are still happening today.
Okay, you got to understand.
A lot of rule changes.
We have so many other generations that have no connection. Even myself, I don't have no connection of what happened in 1970. That's, you know what I'm saying? Like,
they're operating on that fun, and that's part of not being involved. But that's also, I'm a big pathway guy. You can tell people to get involved, but how? To your point, you asked me some questions. How do I get involved?
That's
so I had this conversation with some folks that gave me a little bit of grief about it, but I'm like, it's still this. Y'all ain't gotta like it, but it's still the same problem. Is you're having the meetings, you're not getting attendance. Does it matter if they're online in the world that we live in today?
You said, does it matter what?
If it's online in the world we live in today, we've got alumni all over the world, and they hit me up. Hey, what can I do? And they can't come and be a mentor. So they want to be in some capacity, be able to provide some resource to some programs. Programs have to be more accessible. So what I like your idea of putting together the QR code with a Survey Monkey that has, you can do Survey Monkey for 9 questions for free, right? Multiple choice.
I would do less than 9 by far.
But I'm just saying that's just a general rule. I was kind of an infomercial for people who want to run survey. But I'm not getting paid by Survey Monkey, by the way. But this allows people that space to say, okay, we would direct the traffic to what we would, maybe where we need more help, to your point, with the meeting attendance. Because now those meetings are accountability meetings. Because you're talking about budgets and things of that nature. So if you don't know how money's getting spent, you're wondering why. Well, why is cheerleading always raising money? Well, until last year, cheerleading wasn't considered a sport because they did not compete in cheerleading competition. So they're considered an after-school, secondary after-school program, which means that they had to raise all their own money for everything. Back in the day, there wasn't a differentiator. There was no rule. So what's happening in robotics? It cost them $80,000. No, that was the wrong number. It cost them quite a bit to go to Houston last year and win the national championship.
And congratulations. That's huge.
If you don't know they exist, how can you support it?
Right.
Some of it is just that simple.
Yes. So pulling our community together, that is something you're trying to do. What you're saying, you're starting with a sample size initially on April 5th. And so that's from 12:30 to 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time in St. Stephen's. So even working with a faith-based organization, and St. Stephen's has such a rich and long outreach and just amazing historical, source of light for our community, with Bishop McKinney, God rest his soul, right? And his son, being the pastor there. I
like him. He's good.
Oh, yeah, he's been on my show. Yeah, he's definitely been on my show. So I love that you have that faith-based organization that you're working with in Northwest, as well as, here in San Diego. So I just want to ask you, can you share with us what your faith means to you? Can just kind of share a little bit why that is important, why you're working with the faith base up there in the Northwest, you're working with St. Stephen's here. Why is your faith important to you?
Well, one of the things, let me give a shout out, first of all, to Pastor James Wiley Jr. He is the leader, the founder and leader of Real Teens. And he, through him, I see the work. I saw the work through my mom. I saw the work through my father. And you are what you eat growing up, right? You either run away from your circumstance or you run to it. And I didn't consciously started doing this. It just became like a need. And so when I work with the faith-based organizations, one, it keeps me on the right path. Those are people who they have levels of accountability, so we understand each other. You know what I mean? You work with people that they're counseling people constantly. They're problem eaters, and we had this conversation with some pastors the other day. In this role, we're problem eaters. We're taking on everybody else's problems and trying to resolve them. And my faith, you can't do that without faith. If you think it's all about you, good luck with that.
Problem eaters?
Problem eaters. When you are the person, the therapist is a problem eater because they have to take it, they have to digest all. And some of those people, a lot of therapists, most of them they have their own therapists because they're taking in so much negative energy. You've got to have somewhere to move that to. And the faith of this all is in works, your works. Your God's, everything I say do is like a mission, my mission that God gave me. Mm-hmm. I didn't come to Christ until 2008. My mother was in church at Mount Airy for 38 years. I never understood some of the things that were being said, so I didn't gravitate to it.
Or you didn't like that hacking?
I didn't like getting hit when I fell asleep in the pew. All right, that part.
Sister shouting like,
wake up, boy. So my faith keeps me doing this. Sometimes I get frustrated. I'm like, man, I'm not doing this. But I know the need. Once you understand the need, you can't walk away. There's no walking away. It's almost impossible to walk away once you understand the need. If that's in your heart, you're going to keep it. You're going to keep doing it regardless of whether people piss you off or whether they're not cooperative, or you find those who are. There's plenty of people that are cooperative for you not to be sitting on top of a bunch of people who aren't.
So I want you to start sharing, because we're about to wrap up, what's really important to you for this new program that you're launching, both here in the Northwest as well as down here in SoCal and San Diego, California, with YAWW, and anything else you're involved in. I want you to just go ahead and kind of give your pitch on why people should register for your program. Mm-hmm. And what are some of the best outcomes you think we will be able to serve our community with?
Number one is sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us are putting our time into being in the nonprofit space for free. I spent 8 years at about $12,000 to $13,000 a year flying back and forth from Portland, Oregon to San Diego. Until this year, I've never been paid. That's on me. I didn't do enough. So understanding the structure of what you're trying to accomplish is so important, and being able to connect the dots to how you become sustainable, using other programs as a model, understanding that you can't do it alone. There's no way for you to do it alone. And that I'm a football player. My background is sports. Nobody won a championship by themselves. I won 2 back-to-back CIF football championships when I was at Lincoln. We are the only classes that run back-to-back. Okay. When we came up from Pop Warner, it was a system, it was a farm system. There's always team involved. There's no individual triumphs that last. Mm. So this event is meant to bring people into the room that want to grow and want to sustain what's in their heart. They want this program to be sustainable. Here are your tools. We're handing out toolboxes. It's like any tool, and I hate to use this analogy, so I'm going to try to use a better one. There are multiple things you can do with a screwdriver. You can fix the door, or you can harm someone. We want to take the tools we have and make them fix the door, fix a situation that we've decided that need to be fixing, which is generally why we get into the nonprofit space, right? What you're doing. You see the need, you see a necessary fix. Now, you can have that lightning in a bottle idea, but how do you sustain it? This class is about 100% about sustainability. If that's not good enough for you, I don't need to throw a bunch of fancy words in here to make my point. If you
Right.
want to do this, then you get partners and there's accountability. When you're working with others, there's account. It's like having a workout partner at the gym, right? We all like to call it accountability partners. That's what this is about. If your service wraps into mine, I got to know you got your act together. In order to do that, we have to be like the board, the collective. I actually have a diagram up here that I'm not going to share, but we have to be of the same mindset. Your expectation of me needs to be clearly stated, in i.e. MOUs, but you have to feel that the person that's across from you, negotiating with you, I can show you, I can help you, but I can't do it for you. So you have to know that they have the ability to do it themselves, with or without you, and eliminate those points of failure. So this is what this is about. Hearing the message that there'll be my grant writer. Shout out to Christy Randolph. That she is our grant writer. She just got give you a perfect example. She just got Leaders Become Legends $237,000 for their facility. First grant she ever wrote for them.
Wow.
I have a grant researcher. Be willing. Folks aren't willing to pay $35 an hour for a grant researcher. Well, you can just say, "Heck, I only want you to work for me 2 hours." And I know this researcher can show you probably in those 2 hours, they can show you 15 to 20 grants you qualify for.
Well,
Open minds too good. The money is there, and we keep trying to find it in the same place. That's another conversation. Why are we all chasing the same money when people are giving out grants all over the country? Mark Wahlberg Foundation, Marky Mark, people from England. It's just crazy that we silo ourselves. And this is part of the silo problem. When the only voice you hear is yours, and you got a full-time job, the chances of you finding things that in a collective are exponentially higher versus you trying to do it by yourself. Having those resources, paying a little bit of extra. I had somebody want my grant writer to do research for them, and they said, "We don't." First thing she said, "Well, what's your budget?" "Well, it's this amount." "Well, how much of that you have?" "We have half of it." Then they told her they didn't have any money to pay her. That's planning. Okay, a percentage of that money has to go to you getting more money. Those are the things. People not wanting insurance because they think they can't afford it. Do you understand your liability as a director and officer? If I sue your company, I'm suing you, and the label. There's these things that we jump in and we're just happy to be there almost mentality. And there's a lot more to it. And we need to get everybody on the same page to create stability in these programs.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up the funding aspect of it, as far as yes, understanding what your organizational structure is, what that organizational, culture is and development and the areas that you need, but also that they can walk away expecting to know that, there are some funding opportunities, or if it's not here immediately, but it could be, right? So
yeah, you've seen me. What I do is this. I do teasers all the time. You've gotten the grants. I go in, I do the grant research, and I share it with everybody. And some folks, if I see that it directly connects with your organization, I'll share with you and say, "Hey," and I even put in, you saw the email, what's close date is. I don't want to hear about you didn't get the grant because you didn't apply. I'm gonna try to eliminate, once again, eliminate points of failures, assume nothing. It's a gift. Give the gift correctly. You know what I mean? Sometimes people give a gift, and it's like, you know what? The box is open. Close the box. Make it presentable. And so when I share this information, that's where I stop and you step in. There has to be a degree. Once again, I can help you, I can show you, but I'm not going to do it for you.
right.
Unless you pay me, I'll do it for you if you pay me. Don't get it twisted.
Well, Terry,
You can't buy me.
Oh, that's right. Well, I love that you have a heart of service and that you're willing to serve our community and continue to do it over time. And again, I'm just going to state April 5th to 2025 at St. Stephen's from 12:30 to 4 p.m. is your participant workshop for YAWW. And hopefully other people will contact you, and looking for other great opportunities coming out of the work that you do with We Need to Talk, with the YAWW program, as well as at the Hornets Alumni Association. Thank you so much for being a part of us.
Thank you for having me. And you just got to get up and do it. Just show up, register, come hear the information. And if we get an overabundance, then we'll plan a second one. Within a month, we'll have a second class. But we need to get that initial folks in there, and let's get moving. Got to get moving now. We're always putting everything up. It is now.
It is now. I like that. Thank you, Terry.
All right.